Hello, everybody. How you doing? Mr. Frazley, can I hear you okay?
Yes.
With the refreshing taste of
Sparkling ice.
sparkling ice. Okay, how you doing, chat? I hope you are well today. We had a bit of a hiccup getting started, but we are here.
Yep.
Just to let you know that after we are done with the main broadcast today, the stream will drop, and then both myself and Frazley will have our own streams up, and we'll be doing some talkcasts together. How
With
well
voice
that'll
chat.
work. With what?
With voice chat. So wherever you go, you will hear both of our
Whether that's a good
amazing
thing or
voices.
a bad thing, who knows?
Yes.
Who very well knows. I hope everybody in chat is doing marvellously well today. Thank you very much for joining us live. Otherwise, Mr. Frazley, are you ready to go? We'll get this show on the road.
Absolutely. I'm just making sure that I'm hosting, I believe.
You were earlier, and then the stream went down and back up again.
And then I thought I pressed, but I'm gonna. There we
Frazley
go. Now
is
we're hosting.
you.
Because I had hosted it, but then it wasn't showing on my dashboard. So yep, I'm all set to go.
Aha,
Let's get
I see.
get this. I call mine the gnome train. What do you call yours?
Get shit done.
Let's get the get shit done train going.
Doesn't need to be a train. Just needs to get shit done. Right.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, right. Just do my. Whew. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to another fabulous episode of Stories Around Azeroth, the most momental episode of Stories Around Azeroth as we celebrate 1 year of the podcast. I was umming and ahhing about doing an hourly special, but I think we'll just do what we normally do, and that's talk nonsense for an hour, really, about what we do. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Frazley Tastic. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I got to walk in today, so I'm kind of like, I'm walking on sunshine. And just like, and I feel great.
I'm glad you've had sunshine, because it's been nothing but miserable rain over here today.
It has been that for the past few days. I have not, like, I'm looking at my Instagram and my Twitter. I'm like, I have not gone on a walk in quite a few days. So it was great today. I was like, this morning it was crap. Then it was like sun. I was like, yes, I get to go out. And I'm like, yeah.
Brilliant. Oh my goodness. Oh, today has been a day. As always, guys, I'm Pete Tightscreen Nevercoat, and we are going to be talking Warcraft. It's going to be a very chill episode. We're going to do as we normally do, and then the big topic for this week is going to be just reflecting on the past year and how quickly it has flown by. I cannot believe we've done 51 episodes. Like, the stuff I've learned alone has been crazy, but we'll talk more about that later. Mr. Frazley.
Yes.
What have you been up to this week?
So this week, no mounts have dropped. I have added an invincible emote to Twitch. I'm just waiting on Better Twitch TV to approve it. So that way I can be rooting for Invincible. Someone said, am I going to wait till Invincible's out and then until I get it to it? And Alicia's like, nah, I want to have the mount.
What a tease that would be.
Yeah. Until I get this, you can't use this emote. But yeah, over in a while though, I got my 5th Iron Challenge tune up to 35. So I'm taking it easy, kind of like going in there. And when I start getting tired, I move on to mount runs and just wanting to take my time with it. But I'm not taking my time with my Dwarf Priest, because it is now up to 117.
Oh yeah, you've had a busy week on that one, haven't you? You've not even been doing time walking dungeons. You've just been getting on with it.
Yeah, I did time walking, I think, Tuesday night with Cap and Harlow. But then past that, just been kind of questing in Warlords. Well, Warlords, I do the treasures. And a little bit of questing, because Azeroth Autopilot does say some of the quests are good. But then at some point, it's just like, go get those treasures. Just do it. And they're like, don't worry about anything else.
So basically, what I said to you beforehand, and you were like,
well, no, you were right. It's just I was going for the wrong treasures, because there are certain treasures that are better than other treasures, because like so it goes for the maximum XP treasures.
Okay, just grab them all. That's what I do.
Got to catch them all.
That's it. Got to catch them all. It's a game of Pokemon, except with glittering gold, because you just sell it all. You been on the Alpha at all this week?
I was thinking about doing it this week, but I have not been into it yet, because I was in the about a week ago that I've not been in this week. But tonight, I think you and I are going to be going into Torghast together and be trying to.
After we're done recording live, we'll be going into Torghast, and so I'll get to talk about that because I got into the alpha this week. Yay!
Nice.
I think just about everybody we know is in the alpha. I think.
Some. I've got
in certain circles.
Yeah, I've got a few friends who are not in there, and I feel bad. Like, I'm of the opinion I'm not in charge of the tech and the testing and the Q&A at Blizzard, but if somebody really wants in the alpha, I'm of the opinion give it to them. But if it's because like I don't like withholding things from people. I don't like making me like haha we have it and you don't.
As long as people aren't doing that. I mean, there's a big difference between that and, you know, people are getting in for the sake of getting in.
Yeah, like I did not expect it to get in this early, but I am trying to talk about it, trying to test it, because I have not been able to always do it just because I got some schedules and I don't want to be all alpha either to burn myself out, and I've got some people who won't watch if I do alpha. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that I cover both bases. I
think with stuff like Torghast though, it's quite easy to get away because you're just showing content and you're not showing any story stuff, which I think is why a great deal of people have been streaming Torghast more than most other things.
My only issue with Torghast, and I know it's just for the alpha, is that they don't yet let you progress past 12. Because when I went in there, I was building power, I was doing all this stuff, and then it
you
stopped.
You mean in one solo run?
Yeah, in one solo run.
I don't think that will be a thing until they get. Like, I don't think that'll be a thing until they put on what they're going to test as, like, the live entrance keys.
Okay, because my biggest issue is I have tried to do normal and heroic, and I have gotten my behind
severely
smacked around.
To you. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Honestly,
Mr. T has been my friend.
I wouldn't worry about that until all classes have been tested in there yet. Like, there was stuff like, I think it was either Elemental or Enhancement Shaman were, like, severely busted in Torghast, and that got changed literally the next day.
Okay.
So, but yeah, you've been leveling your iron, which it's been good to see you back doing that since we had Ny'alotha on a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I got inspired by that, and I've been liking it. It's nice having another challenge, and I think by moving to the standing desk, I have more energy when I'm doing it, too, because that's the biggest issue with irons. You've got to be on top of your game. You've got to be mindful, and I've got more energy when I'm standing, so I do consider that to be one reason why I'm up to 35 now. There have been a few moments that I got a little dicey and got a little close, but I've been trying to...
Utterly surprised you're leveling in Arathi, considering some of the elites that wander around that area.
I'm gonna learn painfully from my experience, because like I'm trying my best, because I've not played a lot of Horde, but I like the War Stomp on Tauren, so until I get one to max, I think I'm going to be doing a Tauren Paladin as my template character, because that War Stomp really does help it when you need an extra stun at some point, because if you get multiple people, just stunning them for just a little bit gets me that extra ability to Divine Shield, to heal, and do anything.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting and everything else, but yeah. I mean, I haven't done... Well, I say I haven't done much this week. I have been abusing the rep buff.
Oh, yes. You've gotten so many mounts.
Yeah, I'm down to like 2 Paragon mounts needed now in Legion. I got the one from High Mountain today, so I've got another Moose.
Nice.
So now I'm just down to Dreamweavers and... What's the other one? Dreamweavers and the Azuna rep. Those are literally the last 2 Paragon box mounts from Legion I need, which is cool. I've started doing a little bit of odd fishing to get the Pond Nettle and the one on Argus. No, not that. Pond Nettle is the one from Argus. The one from open sea fishing in BFA.
Oh, yes.
I've started working on that. But otherwise, I have been on the alpha for a little bit this week. I went and had a look at the old character creator.
What do you think of it? Because I think it looks gorgeous, and I even saw that they just added in instead of to like numbers, they've actually added skin tones into the... I mean, what I like is I know we're not getting... We have sliders. We don't have like those fine-tuned sliders, and we don't have like that one slider in Conan Exiles.
The game's not designed to have that sort of fine-tuned slider. For what it is, it's nice. and it doesn't look like a game that is like 15 years old anymore.
I know it feels like a modern game in that regard. I'm like, I can also see that maybe this is showing that they're going to be keep adding more. I would love every patch to get new hairstyles. Just have somebody in their spare time adding more things.
I think
to
you're
the
asking
game.
a little bit much. I don't think you know how much actually it takes to design.
I know.
Exile's Reach. I made a warrior because like it's naturally like outside of Demon Hunter. I think it's about probably the class I'm most familiar with, like to play straight out the box.
Yeah.
My biggest problem comes from the fact that you're pretty much restricted to sword and board, and I hit level 10 before I even got to the dungeon, and because you're sword and board, the biggest way you gain rage is to get hit and to block stuff and everything else. But because it automatically puts you in as DPS, then you're kind of restricted to like not getting hit. And so as a warrior, because I can't go Fury because the game doesn't give me two-handed weapons, then it just feels like the dragon and the ogre at the end of it, they just take forever. I think the easiest way to do it is to fine-tune that starting area so that you finish at 10 before you go into the dungeon, and have a tutorial quest that talks to you about your talent specs with a quest reward that gives you a weapon based on the talent spec you want to be.
But my only question on that is if they want that to be part of it, because I could almost see that being part of the class area afterwards, because when you're going into that dungeon, they don't give you a role spec, they just make you all DPS.
Yeah, but that's my problem. So when it comes to the talents, like if somebody deems that they want to level a specific way, I don't understand why there can't be a quest at level 10 to turn around and just basically be like, oh, this is a spec you want to use, here you go.
The thing I'm trying to get into, like when I'm in Exile's Reach, is the design mentality of it, and I see that it's going deep enough to get you through the main dungeon, but not too deep to overwhelm me with the meta. And that's where I think the next step would be, hey, after you're through this, what about now that you've gone through here, let's get you a spec, and kind of say, hey, here's a spec. Then maybe to another dungeon. I mean, Stockades or Ragefire, because Ragefire is the one that's underneath Orgrimmar, isn't it?
Yeah. But if I want to go and just queue up for another dungeon, as a warrior, I'm not going to have DPS weapons. I'm only going to have a sword and a shield.
Okay, so maybe there.
I just don't understand. Like, I don't think it's that hard to tune Exile's Reach so you finish at level 10 and put in here's a talent thing, because there's still not really a talent tutorial. It's just, oh, you've hit level 10, here's this. But there's nothing to turn around and give you a weapon. You still have to hopefully get a weapon to drop for your spec. And it's considering that we're talking about the new player experience off of this, I don't think that's too bad of a thing to put into it.
I'm wondering if they even want to if Blizzard wants to even get into telling people about specs, because there's guides on different sites. I know it's new player experience, because the meta can change on that, and maybe they don't want to put something in that can't change, but they do teach you spells, and I'm not in disagreement on the talent. I'm trying to figure out where they would put it, because I liked how it
literally be you hit level 10 before you get the quest to queue up for a dungeon.
But then would that stop somebody who wants to go through? Because right now the way you do
why would
the
that
dark
stop
mode,
anybody?
having to make a decision before they're even ready, because they are popped into the game and they're doing all this stuff, and they're like, oh, well, now you've got to make a decision, and they might feel like, oh, if I make the wrong decision, I can't undo it. They can.
Yeah, but that's fine. You put that as part of the learning experience. Like, this is meant to be a tutorial.
Yeah.
For everything. Like, it gets less tutorial heavy as you go through Exile's Reach, but I don't see, especially if they're going to have like as the whole tutorial, and if it's pretty much tailored to hit you to level 10, and talents are like specs and talents are your biggest thing, really. That is that needs the tutorial more than anything else, and I just think that it needs a tutorial before you do it, because out of everything, the biggest thing that I was disappointed by was the fact that I had to go and do the dungeon with sword and board, and my rage generation was crap. And if I did that, if I played a warrior, which most people are probably going to play a warrior, as warrior is kind of like the main staple of anything, and it's pretty flexible to what it can do.
Yeah, I go for warrior in RPGs because I feel like it's going to be the most comfortable.
But if I turn around, if I was a new player and I could only sword and board in a dungeon with AIs, that would be really boring. The only reason that made it interesting in any way to me is because I knew I could jump out to charge back in. You know?
Yeah.
And I'm not meant to tank that dungeon because that dragon does ridiculous damage. It nearly killed me like twice when I was fighting it at the beginning. I just feel like it can be changed up a little bit to have a talent and spec tutorial as part of it.
I can see that, and because I would say that everybody being DPS surprised me on that one. But I'm curious, the class trials, I've only done them a couple times. Do they teach you your spec? I'm trying to remember if they do. Or do they just teach you it?
No, the class trials, I've only ever done it once, and it pretty much puts you into a DPS spec anyway.
Okay.
So, but I think it still gives you Fury and you get the weapons. But the class trial gives you everything for every spec, so you'll get a little bit of everything.
And like I'm gonna go.
I don't expect them to give you stuff for Fury or arms off the bat, because you don't have any skills until you get to level 10 to use a two-handed weapon, because you get like shield bash. Like from the way it's set up to begin with, you can see that it's kind of like, I don't know, facilitates the fact that you can weapon spec into shield and shield to shield bash and then change back again, like with the macros and everything else. But yeah, like I really wish they put in a tutorial for auto loot.
Yes.
Oh my god. Or have it on by default.
Yeah, I don't think, even especially with like personal loot nowadays, there's no need to not have it by default, because that's the first thing that always confuses me, is whenever that either gets turned off by like my WTF folder getting reset in some way. I've had it only once or twice on the character. It somehow just gets reset, like every new character. One like final like thing I was thinking on is Final Fantasy 14 handholds you across everything, and I don't maybe that like to do anything you have to unlock it through the storyline, because the main storyline unlocks.
It doesn't handhold you through everything. There are side quests which unlock other dungeons which aren't on the main quest branch line.
But unlocking free companies, like you unlock features as you go. Like I couldn't even use the airships.
A lot of the main transportation and a lot of the main ways to do everything are unlocked through the main story. But to unlock like side dungeons, like there are like dungeons which are pretty lore heavy in terms of dungeons, which you'll only find if you finish certain side quests to unlock them.
Okay.
Which isn't in this. Like, this is just, you're unlocked once you hit a specific level, which I had a look at in the Dungeon Finder, and I'm pretty disappointed that the level brackets are still there for certain things. Like, it's like 34 vanilla dungeons, or Cataclysm dungeons, I should say, and then like 40 for, like, I don't know, TBC and Wall and Wrath, and then it's weird. Just make everything scale from 0 to 50.
Yeah, and
or
like
10 to 50. I don't even care, but it's so weird.
Yeah, and add an option. I'm with you that it's also broken up by expansions. I would love just to be like, I can keep expansion.
I think they keep all of the expansion things, because some people probably don't want to run like a Warlord's dungeon. But I think that not having everything in a specific queue is not a bad thing either. Like I like the idea of being able to queue for a dungeon and Just getting something random. How many dungeons are there in the game?
Lots. I wouldn't be. I would like a blacklist of ability. Be like, okay, I want to queue. Here's the expansion I want to queue for, and then say, okay, I do want this. I don't want this, and that way you can run the ones that you want. But it'd be nice just to, because I would queue for everything, because then I could just run it and get a bigger chance.
Essentially, you want to queue for everything once anyway, because you've got dungeon quests. You know.
Yeah.
Like you want to queue for everything at least once for the dungeon experience, but like I don't understand why everything's level bracketed. If the world is built to scale, why aren't the dungeons built to scale? I mean, they're clearly built to level accommodate anyway up to a specific level. Just do it all the way up to 50, and then just keep 50 to 60 for your new content.
And if they're afraid of like what they have unlocked on the talents, just sink you down. Because party sinks you down, time walking sinks you down, and like, hey, we won't give you these abilities in this dungeon.
I mean, I'll be interested to see how party syncing that's going to work in a Shadowlands world with the way the new level cap works and everything else. Especially if dungeons sink you down. Like, if you only get access to level 30 talents and abilities if you go into a classic dungeon, I don't see why anybody would not be... Oh, yeah, but BFA dungeons suck for leveling. I think that's something they need to address, and I think I'll put it as, because I'm gonna put all of my thoughts from, like, the idea is that I'm gonna take the video I did of Exile's Reach and put it up as a separate video on my YouTube channel with some thoughts at the end, which will probably just be a condensed version of this. But yeah, no, I think there needs to be some changes to the leveling profile. Like, we probably need to get Des Mephisto to talk about some leveling stuff and bits and pieces. He's like had a look at a fair lot more, but he doesn't do dungeons in terms of his leveling profile, so I'm not entirely sure. It's interesting. It's definitely something that needs to be looked at. Otherwise, you know, I had fun with Exile's Reach. Exile's Reach is very good. I think it's by far the best leveling experience there is. I just think that they just need to make that one subtle change. To do it just needs to be a one quest tutorial which turns around and goes like, you got access to talents and specs now, because I didn't hit 10 long before it. It's not like I went out and was grinding some extra bits and pieces. Like, I pretty much did everything it told me to do. Did you find the guy that throws you on one of the beaches?
No,
I went exploring. And he's a two-headed, I forget what the name of the actual creature is, but he is you can talk to him and he basically will throw you, which is really funny to me. Let me see if I can find it quickly. But yeah, like literally straight off the beach, I just went exploring basically, because I was like, all of these islands look really cool. Like, I wonder what else we could do. But there's a whole part of that island called Murloc Hideaway with no Murlocs on it.
Oh, what happened to the Murlocs? Did they all get eaten by?
But he basically just throws you off. Like he just throws you back to where you should be. I think I found it. So yeah, I just literally, like, you start there, there's all of this scenery that's there, there's all the other different islands, so it looks really cool. And I think you're just, the idea is that, like, lore-wise, you're off the coast of the Broken Isles, so off the coast of Stormheim. But,
oh, interesting. I was thinking that it would be off of like, for Alliance off the shore of Coltyrus, and then for the Horde off the shore of
Xandar. Well, we don't know about the Horde starting area. I think Murloc Hideaway is where the Horde are going to start.
Interesting.
Because
and then
it's another island that's pretty much equidistant, and then this big guy is like in the middle of both. So I think that he'll just throw you, and it might just they might get a different part of the island to level in. So like you're both leveling on the same island, but you don't see each other.
Oh, because that would be so cool. Like, I loved that in the Legion opening cinematic. or just a scenario. I loved seeing the horde on the other side. It would still be cool to see the horde if we can't go over there.
It'll be interesting. But yeah, I found a Zandalari ship. There was a like the skeleton of a dead dire horn underneath it.
Wow.
Like inside it and everything else. And there we go. His name was Drokgar. He's an Etin. There we go.
Etten smash.
Like, he's actually fully voice acted as well.
Nice.
It's just so bizarre. He's just there, and he can just throw you or just not throw you.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, I just went exploring, and that's the annoying thing. Like, I just wanted to explore because there was so much there to see, essentially. And like, it was crazy. Like, yeah, Murloc hideaway, no Murlocs. Just a broken down. I think it was an undead ship that was broken there, but there was nothing else there. Like, so I assume that's where the horde will be.
So an undead ship that was just forsaken on the side of the.
Well, no, I don't know. But I think it's the only thing I could put because it didn't look like a human ship. It just looked like it was just like another thing. But since there was a Zandalari boat there, I assume that it was just a horde boat more than anything else.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, that was that. All in all, had fun. Would really like to... I don't know. I'd really like to explore the rest of it. I'm not sure if the way that Exile's Reach is built is to only give you a certain viewpoint. Because there was a point where I walked out. I think it was like after the first area of Murlocs, you know, with the first rare that you come across. And when you walk out and you see the Citadel in the distance and then you fuck around with the boars and that. And that viewpoint of walking out is the same feeling I got when I did the Battle for Undercity as Horde side, when I walked out of the Undercity gates onto the battlefield and saw everything there. It's such a good set piece to be able to see stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's about it for that. I don't know. You got any more final thoughts on Exile's Reach?
No, other than the fact that I like how there's also the tutorial when you log in that tells you like how to move around, tells you where to go on the map. I like that they give each class a specific quest for an ability, and they even saw that there's a quest to take down a 3-person mob. And when I was on there, somebody else was on there too. So two of us took down this bear. Yeah.
I soloed that.
I figured you would.
Just because I could. I just soloed it.
Yeah. So maybe they need to scale it up because I could see like it's like hey, you can't take it on everything by yourself. But
I can. I'm an animal.
You are.
Didn't even have any more pain either. It's ridiculous. But yes, Mr. Frazley. We've been doing this podcast for a year.
I cannot believe it. I mean, I've missed 1 or 2 episodes, especially in December. But other than that, yeah, we've been here every Sunday. It's How
does it feel?
Again,
like
it feels good.
You've got many podcasts under your belt, but this is one of a few that you don't actually like edit or do anything else. So how does it feel to be on the opposite side as a guest? Well, I say a guest. You're a co-host. You're a co-host. You help me out a lot behind the scenes and everything else. But how does it feel doing it with somebody else and not being the editor and everything else?
I like it because I like that I can just get here, talk. I can press record when we use Squadcast. I get you those files. But other than that, I kind of like letting you handle all that stuff. And like I do that on Thursdays, so I'll do it. But I also like the rapport that we've built just by podcasting because we've got to know each other's different likes and dislikes about the game, and we've been like working on like playing off of each other, trying to balance it. So it's nice. I've wanted to be in a co-host spot, and this actually helped me get more comfortable when I went on to the Converted podcast. So I built a lot of things that I've learned from this into that show when I went on there. And I like having a consistent person every week. I love Frazlecast. I love talking with different people. but it is also nice having somebody that I know every week that I know how to bounce it off of. I don't know what the show's going to feel like every week with Frazlecast.
I mean, it's not a bad thing per se, is it?
No, it's because it adds different. It adds a dynamic, but it's also nice being able to, like, sometimes I don't talk about stuff on Frazlecast, but I talk about it here, and I enjoy that.
So the first episode went live on YouTube on the 21st of May, which means that we would have recorded it on the 19th of May. So we're about a week early. Which, to be fair, I think makes up because we had a leap year. So
yeah, but by the time we would have done that one, like next week would have been later than it anyway.
Yeah, because I only missed one episode, and that was only because I just wasn't feeling well, and you weren't here because you were on holiday.
Yeah,
at the time as well. So
how was it on the episode? Because there was at least one or two that I was not here at all.
So you
what did that feel like?
You were going to be away for 2 weeks, and Michael was going to step in, as it is.
Yeah.
And he was there for 1 week, and then I was ill. I was ill the first week, and then he was around the second week. But it's different having I talk to Michael now more often than not anyway. But
yeah,
it's different not hearing your voice in terms of doing the show.
Okay, cool.
It's a very different vibe, as I imagine it would be if I said I'm on holiday. Can you do stories? And you'd have to go. Blah, I need all the assets, but
yeah,
no, it's yeah.
It's kind of like I've had for Frazlecast. I have a backup plan. If I ever can't get someone for an episode, I will do it solo. But I know that would be maybe 20-30 minutes.
I think
there's
only ever been one point where you've turned around to me and gone, I need somebody, come and help, and I've jumped on because I've just been around.
And I appreciated it because that was it really helped, and I appreciated bringing your perspective into it because it was nice bringing on the alpha. It was you and somebody else.
Blimey, it was me and somebody. I think it was Sai.
Yeah, it was Sai. Yes.
Yeah, that was a fun thing to sit down and chat for a couple of hours. It was a lot of fun.
I want to turn around and I want to be the I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
So this is not your first podcast, I take it.
I mean, it's the first one that I'm producing.
Okay. What have you learned in that year?
Oh goodness! About all the different things that you need to do to have it up and running. Essentially,
yeah,
it's much more detailed than people think when it comes down to it. But we do it. I want to say we do it in a slightly different way, but we don't, because nearly everybody that does a podcast has someone to host it in a video form as well these days. So it's good.
Yeah.
It uses a lot of the stuff I already know, and as I think everybody knows by now. I like to talk a lot.
You do? I never noticed that.
No.
Never. There hasn't been episodes where it was like you and the guest talking. I'm just like, okay, I'll chime in when I get something to talk about. You just, I'll let you talk.
Yeah, but those times you do bring in, you bring in a different perspective and ask a different question I wouldn't have thought about. And I mean, definitely while we've been doing the podcast specifically, having you around has brought a completely different perspective on how I view a lot of the player base of the game as well. Because you play the game very differently to how I play the game.
And I have to say, you've opened me up to it in another perspective, because I've enjoyed what you bring, and you've helped me look at the game differently. And you actually, I hate to say, you've changed my game style a little bit, because you've given me tips, and when I finally and get past my stubborn pride and like, I know how to play the game, and then I do what you do, like, oh, that makes sense.
Jump on every now and again and go, Frazley, you've forgotten this button.
I'm like, oh,
I think it took me 2 weeks of telling you to use your ice block after a cauterize goes off on your fire mage for you to actually start doing it.
Yeah, and it took me about 114 levels before I actually put my power word shield on my priest onto a tell me when macro.
But that wasn't
always
me that told you to do that.
That was Razorus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Razorus. But yeah, it was one of those. And my priest plays so much better once I have. Whenever that goes down, pop it back up again.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Well, you just need a weakened soul thing to like track that debuff more than anything else. I think that would be like, I'm not sure if that would be information overload for you in the grand scheme of the way that you play the game. If you had weak auras for everything, I think that might be too much information on your screen.
Yeah, that's why I've enjoyed the simplicity of Tell Me When. Is I enjoy what do I need to make sure I keep up, but past that I don't have too much, and I'm still learning that.
I honestly think, like, not as a criticism, like as like guiding advice, because I can kind of see where exactly in the thought process you are with your UI, and that would be like, I think action bars would probably be the next logical step, and having everything a little bit more centralized on your screen.
Yes,
and only having stuff that you need to have on there.
Absolutely, and that's why I have enjoyed like Hikili telling me here's what you need, and then past that learning what I need from it.
Well, Hikili's good for telling you your rotation. That's the best thing about Hikili, but it won't tell you to use big cooldowns and bits and pieces like that. And
no, it like only I feel like it'll tell me if I'm out of shadow form. It will tell me when I'm out of battle shout. That's one that it does tell me, but it won't tell me fortitude, which is why I have tell me when that gives me the fortitude.
It's a lot of fun at times to see, but it's about what playing with makes you comfortable and more than anything else.
Yeah. So what would you say is something that you wish you had known about podcasting before you started?
That's a good question. I mean, there's still stuff I'm learning from week to week, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
I think I'm in a quite comfortable position in the fact that I have all the tools I have already before getting into this, like the good podcasting microphone, like knowing how to stream more often than not. And I think I'm lucky in the fact that where I can't afford a website of my own, I'm lucky enough to know friends that are willing to host stuff on their site, you know?
Oh, yeah, because podcast hosting can be both tricky, but also it can be expensive. So that is definitely a nice thing.
I think that's something a lot of people don't know, is that to have a podcast, you need someone that's able to host it. Like, it's all well and good doing a video version, ripping it, and then sticking it over to YouTube or just exporting it out to YouTube. That's all well and good, you know, you can quite easily do that. But if you want to have an audio version where it hits so many more different people, you've got to know how to do your audio edits and everything else, and have somewhere to host that.
Yeah.
And then I think I spent it was either an evening or a couple of evenings with Frazley and a couple other people about how to get it up on quite a few other places. And because I did that with the friend whose website is over on Last Minute Continue, he's managed to get all of his stuff up on, like, all the audio versions up on Spotify, which he wasn't able to do previously. So stuff that I've learned has helped him and everything else.
Nice.
But there's a lot there to know. Like, there's a lot of different things you need to look out for and everything else. But otherwise, it's the same thing as growing anything, really. You need to reach out. You need to talk to people. You need to... what's the word?
Network or ask for help?
You need to network with other people. And you need to... just grow your show as you would grow anything else. Like,
and it's the same way that I look at streaming, that you can't get everything perfect at once. You'll find, like, okay, here's something I'm trying to figure out. Just before the show, I was looking at another widget for stream for something, and I didn't figure it all out. But I keep a list of, like, what do I want to go for, and, like, what would you say are some of the things, without, like, putting it where you're promising this, but, like, where do you want to see the show going?
I mean, I'd like to see the show. I mean, from a streaming perspective, I mean, we have a stable amount of people that come in on a per weekly basis. I'd like to see the live shows grow to a decent amount of people per week, but that's the same with just streaming in general, you know?
Yeah.
That all goes and comes around with if you have just a standard viewer base that's willing to view, you're able to do anything. And Warcraft is in that interesting place. If I'd set this up 10 years ago, 10, 12, 13 years ago, I don't know, it might be bigger than what it was, because content creators back then are a different breed of thing to content creators now. But,
yeah, and the ones who have been around that long, I feel like they have the bigger viewer numbers.
They have a larger viewer base because they have a community which is around them. But I haven't. Trying to break in as a content creator these days is a lot harder because there's so many of them. And a lot of them are very, very good. Very, very good. Much better than what I'm doing. But, like, I've got a lot of stuff that I want to upgrade. Like, it's talking about the podcast in particular. There are ways I'm looking at to update for season 2. And the way I'm looking at doing seasons is with each expansion rollout. So, once Shadowlands is live, we're going to have a new look and everything else. Try just to keep it in themed, you know. Maybe we'll remain to stories around Bastion, who knows? Oh, stories around Ouroboros? I can't remember the name of the main thing.
But you're right, because we're going to be gone from Azeroth for quite a while.
Yeah, well, I won't. I'll still be back mount hunting every week. So.
Oh, me too. And I'll be doing irons and probably on like my 85th iron by then. I mean, 5th iron. The 5th iron is going to get to 120.
Wow. It probably won't get to 120 before the level cap comes down, let's be fair.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. Like, I want to get the look and the feel down before I think about doing anything else, you know? And
yeah,
there's a lot to come, to be fair, and that's how I feel first. I kind of went off on a massive tangent, but there's a lot there I've got on mind. But as Frazley knows, as I talk to him privately about these things, like, he's seen certain things already. But,
and they look amazing.
But there's a lot of stuff coming that for this alone, but there's a lot of other stuff going on this year as it is. Like, as I've touted many times, I've got the charity and everything else that I'm preparing for in June. That's a big thing. I think I've shown Frazley one thing on that so far.
Oh yes, and that looks amazing too. You're giving me ideas, like not to steal, but we'd be inspired by what you do. I mean, you're giving me things.
Thief.
No, I get inspired. Though, another question in that vein.
Yeah.
As a content creator, do you find that you have less time to game now that you podcast than you did before?
No.
Okay.
Mostly because I have a lot of... I've learned how to manage my time when it comes to editing videos anyway. The podcast doesn't take that long to... The only reason the podcast takes long to edit at all is because it's the video render that takes the time. Like, an audio render doesn't take that long to sort out. Specifically, for me.
And that's one difference between like you and me. Like, I will sculpt Frazzlecast, but that's my difference in editing, where I like to fix different things and whereas what is your approach to editing? Because I mean, I don't always listen to the audio because I'm on the podcast, so I don't always listen to myself because there's any other podcasts for me to listen to.
So when we have the guest on and we're using the external programs rather than just using Discord, which Discord has been behaving, it's just been my internet that's been a bit shit today.
Yeah.
I have to find a good point to sync, which, for those of you that join us live, you don't see this on the edits or anything else, but I do a clap at the beginning, which it always allows me to sync up the audio and the visual. It allows me to just go ahead and, like, it's easy to do it, but I always work on the beginning and the end first for the video, because once I work out what it's going to fall into and where I need to cut it off and where I need to begin it, then I can actually work on the rest of the video itself that needs working on, if it needs it at all. But then I just need to take out a lot of peaks and troughs, essentially. Sometimes it doesn't work as well as others, but it's quite often very simple. You have a knack down to it, and normally the editing takes me somewhere between 15 to 20 minutes, and it's the rendering. An audio render will take about 30 seconds for an hour long, but like a render can take anywhere, because I stream in 1080 60, and because I upload in 1080 60, a render with the graphics card I have will probably double, I mean, sometimes like 2.5 times the length of the actual episode. So an hour-long episode can take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours.
Wow, and even like your audio render takes longer for me. But then again, I had a lot of different like effects as I'm going through,
Yeah,
and
no, I don't do that though. So the biggest thing that I want to get sorted is I want a proper intro and outro for the cast at some point. But
yeah, it has to feel right, because like even like the Frazlcast intro, I'm thankful that Ali and Brandon T. Blaylock sent me in something that fits the style. And it was one of those, I never even asked them to do it, and they both sent me, and like, I'm grateful that they did, because it sets the mood, but I never made one myself. I sort of had some music that I bought from Kevin MacLeod, because
the royalty free stuff.
I bought a package of his that I could use, and that was the original opening to Frazlcast. But then he was like, but then I got given by the community, and it is just like the Frazlcast music is the opening Wrath of the Lich King login music, but in chiptune, and I'm like, oh, I love it. Yeah. So yeah, it's finding that feel for the show. What sets the show?
Do you mean when you said the intro? Is it like the login screen? Does it have a pixelated dragon roar, or do you mean like
no? It doesn't have
my son.
No, it doesn't have that, but it's just said it. It just said in that, like, it's because like Brandon did this whole song on it, but he based it off of that. It's like you hear like the doom doom doom, and like you hear like the music and like chiptune. Oh, I love it. It always makes me just smile whenever I hear it. But yeah, no, that was a tangent.
I don't know. Is there anything you'd like to see as a change to the podcast?
I can't say there's anything that like jumps out to me, because we've been working on it, like trying to be more back and forth, trying to like play two sides of a question. As I've told you, I will play the devil's advocate on things. I may actually not agree with the position that I'm touting, but I want to bring it up just to kind of bounce back and forth. And I definitely see that. And I like that we're looking at like stories and like experiences that we're having, not just recounting news. And
I'll be honest. It took a while to find the point,
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things I like to report on, because I think they can be interesting. But yeah. I've noticed that some things don't really fly. Not so much fly, but your audience, when they come, they're not as invested in it. And I get that. And there's been, it's been reported back to us that like just talking about the news is not there. And I get that, because you've got all the different WoW YouTubers that do it. There's a lot of probably WoW podcasters that just recount the news, and you've got to find your main thing that does it. And that's, I think, where we had guests on and got all of their different points of like, them talking about the game as they do it. And then, we have a big topic where they get to put in their input, which is most of the time very different to ours.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely come around that way, and I kind of like that build, and that's the way it is. So yeah, who knows? We'll see.
And I find the show's been flowing like even better. Every show has to morph into what it's going to be, and I find that like it's. I mean, it's definitely
that's me in a nutshell. I like to fly loose and by the seam of my pants. So, I'd rather it be more loose and have a rather loose structure than be so gated on what you have to do. Like, I like to turn around and go, "What have you done this week? This is what we'll try to talk about." I mean, how many times have we discussed what we'll aim to talk about and then it just not materialized?
Yeah, and like on Frazlcast, I have an agenda, but there are times I will modify the agenda because the guest brings up a point in such a way that like they did talk about exactly what I was looking for, or they went into a new avenue. I definitely like. For me, I do like an agenda, but that's why I'm at least glad that you tell me what we're going to talk about, because I'm not a fully hang loose, a free flowing gnome. I do like knowing what's coming a little bit.
Yeah, but sometimes it's I don't know. I like. I think it just flows easier that way because I like to talk about what's on my mindscape more than anything else. You know, never really think before I talk. I think it's part of the reason, but I think it works for the most part.
And it's you, and that is one thing, is that it shows you're being you. You're being the genuine you.
Yes.
Do you ever struggle with doubt or motivation to podcast?
Not as yet. I find more doubt and motivation to stream.
Yeah, I can understand that.
But it really depends on the sort of content I do, because I'll do Warcraft, but because I'm either going up against Europeans who have bigger audiences, but I don't like. There's only one real European. Well, there's two European streamers that I follow on Twitch, which will be during the day, but they're not always there during the day, you know. But when they are, they have a big audience. But then there's way more US content creators, and they're on about this sort of time that we go live, and it's really hard to really combat against that. Even though I think that the audience that we normally pull in for the live shows is generally it's like a mixture between yours and my audience and everything else. But a lot of the people that turn up for my streams that aren't Warcraft won't come to a Warcraft stream, you know? Like, they'll come to some of the other content I'll do, like they'll turn up for when I play Record Keeper, which is my mobile game, which I showed you the other day, like some of the end game content for that. Or they'll turn up for the races that I do with Andy, because, you know, that's a different area, because people like to see other people race video games, and quite frankly, it's a lot of fun at times, you know? But I don't really have an audience of my own as it is, and I feel like I've got a lot of audiences from other people, and like I don't see the same consecutive people turn up for stream to stream.
And I find that like when I stream different games, I will find some that will be there. I think my largest audience tends to be Warcraft.
Yeah.
And it does go down when I do different things, but I do those because I want to play it, but then I still come back to the Warcraft. Like Warcraft's my main.
Yeah, I think Warcraft will always be our main thing, especially when Shadowlands comes out. I think Shadowlands is just gonna, like, I'm gonna say, see you later, Andy. See you in a month. See you later, Record Keeper. I'll see you in a month, and I'll just be doing Shadowlands, and I assume I'll be doing Mythic Plus and the raiding and all the dungeons to farm up and everything else. And you'll probably do your leveling to 60 and then go back to your irons, you know, because that's what you do. But I don't know. It's definitely an interesting time. The only way I can say, the biggest reason I don't get demotivated for the podcast is because it's a different type of content, you know? Like, I can sit here and I can chat with you and like chat to the live chat, as it were, when they're around and they're talkative and everything else. But like when you're gaming, you try to concentrate on the game without messing up, and then, you know, because the worst thing you want to do when you mess up on stream is for having it clipped for all eternity, as has happened in the past, you know. But yeah, I don't know, it's still just keeping it going, and it's fun. There's more motivation to come on and do a podcast and do something with friends than there is to not and do something else where you're on your own. And until you can get, like, it's a bit weird to say it, but even if you have 5 to 10 continuous chatters, I think streaming is a hell of a lot easier to do.
Yeah, because you have something to bounce ideas back on, and I turned the view count back on, not because I'm watching it rise or fall, but it does always remind me that there's someone watching, and it's in the back of my head. It works. It helps to be like, okay, there's somebody out there. They may not be chatting, and that's fine, because lurkers, I love lurkers, and as we said before, but it's cool knowing that there's somebody there. I'm making a connection with somebody, because that's one more person than if I had not turned on that stream.
Yeah, today. That's it, isn't it? Like they're engaging with you, even if it's passive.
Yeah, and I'm in their life in some way, and they're in my life because they're encouraging me to do it by being that viewer.
Yes. Anyway, I think we are at our time for the week. So we are going to call an end to this. Mr. Frazley, as always, whereabouts can they find you if they're looking for you around the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Frazley where I will post like puns and like daily streaming videos that has been helping me work on video editing. You can find my podcast Frazlecast at gnome.podcast.com. I got Clanker of Tarn of the Goblin coming onto the one that's out by the time you hear this on the download. And you can find my shenanigans and all the like the weird stuff, like soon eating a Carolina Reaper chip. I don't know when, but it's going to be coming soon over at gnome.live. And playing World of Warcraft, of course. It's not just me eating beans and wearing hats and stuff like that, but I mean, there is gameplay.
It is all of that.
Yes,
it is all
but
of
with
that.
games.
And with games. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find me as always at Titans Creed on the main one, at Frazley Tastic, or not at Frazley Tastic. You can't find me at Frazley Tastic. You can find me at Gaming Phoenix if you just want the YouTube videos and the Twitch streams. Otherwise, you can find me live over on twitch.tv/Project Phoenix Productions, and you can find all the videos hosted over at youtube.com/Project Phoenix Productions. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you very much for joining us live. If you're with us on the live stream, we're going to be playing some more games in a bit. Otherwise, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Frazley always likes to say,
be awesome and start a podcast or stream.
Start the thing.
Yes, do the thing like the Scruffy Druid says.